Avi Meyers, Northtown Neighborhood News and Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Community Policing Caps24.org. Jewish Chicago will be coming out for your early voting pleasure with an expanded judicial section. We will be putting out more copies than ever. And due to the nature of the races this year, we will especially be distributing heavily in the north and northwest suburbs. We really intend to increase our circulation in these growing Jewish areas. I love Facebook. You meet all these interesting people. I had him on the show once. He's a real interesting character, and I say this as a compliment. Don't take it the wrong way. He is a fantastic self-promoter, not to mention the master of the selfie. I never saw anybody consistently take good selfies as well as my next guest. And I'll let him tell you about his burgeoning radio career also. Mark Weyermuller, how are you?
Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be on TV, the top-rated cable TV show from my online poll that I've taken and determined, the top show on cable in Chicago.
Cheers. I salute to that. Thank you so much. And I got to tell you, my buddy Jerry, he was over for Thanksgiving, and he starts gushing. He loves Stephanie's show, You're the Man on the Street on the show. It's on WLS on Sunday evenings. He say, oh yeah, he mentioned you and blah, 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 and Stephanie even said she's seen the show, and which might not have been the same show. I don't know. I know whatever, but it was really nice of you to mention it. I do appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Well,
so you do Man on the Street stuff for them.
Well, I've kind of evolved into doing this radio as kind of a permanent guest. I'm on at 10:31 on Sunday nights on the Stephanie Trussell Show on WLS 890 AM. Her show runs from 9 p.m. to midnight on Sundays. So I'm on about 10:31, and I do about 10 to 12 minutes called The Man on the Street. I just basically talk about things that I've been to, what's going on in Chicago, just to kind of just where I am and man on the street, fun stuff.
From your Facebook page, you're in more places than just about anybody I know.
So, well, I consider myself kind of a student of public policy. And I go to a lot of events, Democrat, Republican. I go to Cub games. I find a lot of things interesting. Of course, I find that politics are involved in everything. So it's easy to, and I also blog and write about it. I'm on IllinoisReview.com, and I write a couple stories a week, a lot of that's where I've been, whether it's seeing a candidate or going to, especially right now with presidential candidates. There's a lot going on both sides.
Yeah, and you've met a number of them.
Yeah, I've met on the Republicans. I've met 12 of the 16. The running joke is I haven't met Gilmore or Pataki yet. And I'm not even sure if they might even be here today, and I wouldn't even know who they are. If they're here, point them out to me.
Pataki I would recognize, probably the other one, no. No, not going to happen. Okay, so in terms of issues, well, one of the things, you originally approached me, then we can expand to other subjects. You originally approached me about about a housing situation, rather, in Wilmette.
Yes.
Go.
So, well, I go to, my kids are in college, so I have time to do things. My wife doesn't want me hanging around. I can't watch TV all evening. So I go to a lot of public policy things, including board meetings. And this is village board, school board, park board. So recently our village board is trying to push a controversial subsidized housing project in Wilmette that's federally funded. And neighbors are up in arms. So we've been to a bunch of meetings on this. It's very complicated, and I'm not opposed to any type of housing. I actually prefer senior housing if the government's going to pay for it.
I agree.
This is unclear if it would be people on Section 8, if it'd be former felons. Something comes to mind. One of my neighbors did affordable housing. You might have heard of him, Tony Retzko, and got in some trouble. I don't know if you recall that name.
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, I recall a number of angles, including the fact that a good chunk of Obama's property was given to him by Tony Retzko.
Yeah, and that's, and I believe Rod Blagojevich's wife may have been involved in part of the real estate deal on that.
Yes, she was.
So it's interesting, but part of the way he made a lot of money was doing this affordable housing by having the government pay for it.
Yeah, he owned one politician after another.
Yes, and you usually get these deals by paying donations or getting buddy with village officials.
He also was Barack Obama's next door neighbor.
Yes, and he held 2 fundraisers at his house for Barack Obama. I believe he might have held one for some Republicans too, so he did play both sides of the aisle.
Well, that's, if you read John Cass, he talks about the combine, which is basically money guys who are not Democrat and not Republican,
Oh yeah, well,
but looking out for their own wallets.
and there's a lot of that going on in Chicago.
Yes, there
there's
is.
a lot of it. I sound like a skeptic, but a lot of it's about contracts, and you follow the money. So, but with this deal in
That's
Wilmette,
exactly right, but people, he's got it. Follow the money.
so this deal in Wilmette is controversial because it's in a residential neighborhood, and they want to jam this basically scattered site housing. It might be single room occupancy. It's very unclear.
Single
what it
room
is.
occupancy is not a good thing.
Yeah, well, I'm not really going to comment because I want diversity. I want people to have a chance. But if it's federally funded, should other people pay higher property taxes to subsidize it? Our property taxes are enormous in Wilmette and for the New Trier School District, which includes Winnetka, where they're also trying to do this forced subsidized housing. So it's a hot issue among many things. So
I have a group home next door. It's off the tax rolls. And even though it's for women with Down syndrome, if they want to put troubled teenagers in there tomorrow, nobody's got any say. And all of a sudden, we got a bunch of juvenile delinquents, and that's putting it nicely. I mean, wherever these homes are located, it's problems and a half.
Oh, yeah. Well, and this is just one of many issues. Just a minor thing I'm working on with our park district. We just got a $60,000 federal grant to build a bird habitat at Gilson Park. And then we're going to match it with $60,000 of property tax money. So the village is gushing about it. I just don't want to spend the money. I would give it back to the federal. I don't know if they've heard that there's a huge debt and deficit problem and that
Yeah,
with
there's
trillions
other
of
things-
dollars. And
Even though birds are nice, I mean, there's more. I mean, people have larger needs than that these days.
yeah, well, I put it on my Facebook page, and somebody quickly informed me that birds can just live in trees. They really don't need us to do anything. They do pretty well without us and might do better.
Well, as a matter of fact, doing better is probably the fact. You take a look at the so-called, Department of Natural Resource, whatever they call the.
Well, this is Fish and Wildlife giving them the grant.
Yeah, you know what? It's like if we were to really look into those policies, it is absurd. There are about 40 million people that would volunteer to kill deer, and they've got to let out contracts and pay a lot of money to do it. And it's like restaurants consider it delicacies, all kinds of things. There's so many different ways you can be creative with these things. It can also be argued that all these government agencies do harm by overmanaging. These animals got along just fine before all this happened. It's the same thing with the parks and all the rest of it. By suppressing fires in these places, you're actually creating more fires because things aren't burning when they should. Things build up. Trees are too dense. Boom. You got a minute left, and I shouldn't be taking your time.
No, well, this is, and a lot of this comes back to contracts. No one really might not care about birds or whatever, but if there's money to be made, and this is Democrat and Republican, if there's money to be made, they want to get their hands on it.
Yeah.
So I tend to criticize everybody, Republicans, Democrats, because
They deserve it.
Yeah, I want less government. I want less taxes.
I agree.
We always say we want more freedom, liberty, and opportunity with less taxes, less spending, less regulation, and less borrowing. And that would really help me out considerably.
It would help just about everybody out. People don't realize it. I mean, the fact of the matter is, there are something like 304,000 federal regulations on the books right now. And we are probably both committing multiple felonies without even knowing it, just by breathing.
Oh yeah, well I'm sure we are, especially having it publicized here on the largest cable TV show, most popular TV show in the Chicago area. How's that for a plug?
He's going to be back a lot, you can tell. In any event, I want to thank you very much, Mark Weyermuller.
Thanks for having me on.
For joining me. I want to thank all of you for joining us. This is we're going to really be concentrating on candidates and the elections from here on in. Thank you so much, Sonny Hirsch. Bye-bye, everybody.